Hello, today we are going to be talking about peer review, what it's all about, how to go about doing it so that we can have a really good experience throughout the whole semester as we come back to this activity for each major essay. Now, first of all, when we talk about peer review, I do really want you to think about it as a valuable endeavor. As I mentioned in the document that you read, peer review is something that happens in professional writing and is at the height of feedback that people get because the peers who are involved in the writing process have a lot of experience with it and can offer really helpful insights. So first, before we get into how to do peer review, I do want to talk about what the benefits are for both you as the writer, but also as a reviewer. Okay? Now, first of all, benefits for the writer include getting feedback to help your essay, obviously. And also there's the chance that someone will catch something you did not, something that you didn't realize was an issue. Someone else's eyes will pick up on it and give you that helpful feedback. So things that we typically think of as the benefits of peer review, simply getting some good suggestions from other people. But even you as the reviewer, it's not purely a quid pro quo of you helping someone else to get help in return. There's actually a benefit to the very process for you as the reviewer. Okay? You can get ideas for your own writing. As you're writing your own essay, you may not be 100% sure how to go about doing something, but seeing somebody else do it successfully might give you an idea of how you can go about doing that in your own writing. Okay? So that's really what we want to take from the benefits of the activity. But then it comes down to what do we actually need to do. Okay? For each peer review activity, we're clearly going to be focused on a different type of writing, so you want to make sure you're attuning your feedback accordingly. But there are some specific things that we can do and certain things we can avoid regardless of the type of essay we're writing. First of all, what to do. Best thing you can do is be specific. General, vague comments, something like your intro doesn't really work, are not helpful. However, pointing out specific things, such as a comment on their attention getter, a comment on a particular sentence or particular use of evidence, can be incredibly insightful. Similarly, offer specific suggestions for improvement. Don't just find issues, but offer some suggestions on how it can be made better. You obviously don't want to write the new sentence or the new paragraph for them, but you can at least give them some direction where you want to see things go as the reader. It's also important to focus on content, not grammar, not formatting. That's editing. That's the next step. We want to focus right now on sentence structure, or paragraph structure, essay organization, development of details, things like that. Okay? We want to make sure we give helpful feedback, something that is constructive. It builds on what they have, not something that is destructive and just meant to tear them down. And part of that is pointing out positives. You obviously want to point out things that didn't work. Because if you don't point that out, what are you doing, right? It's not going to give them much help. But you do also want to point out things that have gone well. You can find videos online of a scientist teaching pigeons to play ping pong. And the way they do it is by pointing out every time the pigeon does it correctly, they make some attempt to push the ball in the right direction, they give them a treat. Same thing, if you give positive reinforcement to your peers, it's going to help them. Basic psychological principle. Okay? Now, as for what to avoid, there are certain things that don't work that well for feedback that will actually just turn your reader away. That includes things like general comments like this paper is weak. If you just say a paper is weak, it doesn't give your reader a whole lot of help on what to actually do about it. But just as weak, in terms of your feedback, is saying something like this paper is great. Okay, if it's great, then I don't need to do anything about it, right? Well, hopefully that's not the message you're trying to send. And finally, anything that's going to discourage you. You do want to point out things that aren't working well. You want to have that level of honesty, but you don't want to be too negative about it to the point where they're not seeing what's already good. So they're not building on what they have. You're just making them turn away and feel like they can't do it. Okay? So we want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. We want to give constructive feedback, specific suggestions for improvement, specific mentions of things that are positive. That's what it's going to lead to the most effective peer review. Finally, I want to give you an example of some peer review and actually show you what the process will look like, because this is exactly what you're going to do for each essay assignment in this class. Okay? So we go to the next page. And let's say you saw this as an introduction. I'll make it a little bigger just so you can see it better. So this is the introduction for a narrative essay. Okay? First thing you would want to do, clearly, is to read each section, but then you need to give some specific feedback. And the way we're going to do this electronically is by using the comment feature in Microsoft Word. So I'm going to show you exactly how that works. So first, this is the story of when I learned how to read. When I was in 4th grade, I got in trouble because of my language arts grade. My teacher, though, gave me private tutoring after class. Eventually, I learned to read very well and actually enjoy it today. That moment shows everyone how they can learn to love something with some hard work. Looking at that paragraph as an introduction, you probably see some things that are working, some things that aren't. As we said, the more specific feedback we can give, the better, while still remaining positive and still remaining constructive overall, even while pointing out negatives, is the best method. So when we find something that we want to comment on, for instance, this is the story of when I learned how to read. That's a summary of the story. It's not really an effective attention getter. I decide I want to leave that feedback. I want to leave that comment. So what I do is highlight either the entire sentence or even just a single word, but the whole sentence will make it even clearer what you're talking about. Then I go up to Review, New Comment. This will open a little text bubble where I can type in whatever I want. The nice thing about this is you can leave pretty extensive feedback all in the margins of the page. Works a lot better than if we were handwriting these comments, for sure. So a good specific comment would be something along the lines of, this does not work as an attention getter. Adding an attention getter would help engage the reader immediately. However, this is a good choice for the essay topic. See, I'm offering that little bit of constructive criticism, right? Pointing out things that were working well, right? Because, telling the story of when you learn how to read is not a bad idea. The issue is that doesn't make for much of an attention getter. Okay? Another thing I can comment on is that the story itself actually works really well. Okay, so this is more of a general comment of the introduction. Okay, view the story shows a clear conflict and lesson to be learned. However, here's where the part where I'm actually helping them see something to change. However, you've told the whole story in the introduction. Instead, build suspense, leave us wanting to read on. Okay, that would be a good comment to make here because that's pretty much what they've done. They've given away everything that happened. Okay, but showing that there's a clear conflict and lesson to be learned, showing that there is something positive in this paragraph is what it's all about. Okay, and finally, I would say this is a good general significance to put in the conclusion of your essay. Okay? So it doesn't need to be in the intro, but that is a good lesson that they can move to the ending. So when we're doing peer review, this is the kind of thing we're looking for. Offering specific feedback with those comments in the margins, and also making sure we're giving feedback that helps them while still pointing out things that are already working well. So they have a sense of encouragement, but also so they keep those good things. Like this sentence, this last one, we don't want them to get rid of. We simply want them to move it. So telling them that it works, should just be moved, is the best way to accomplish that. Okay? And finally, after you've gone through the entire essay, you've given good feedback on all sections of the essay, thinking about what the essay should be and what they need to do to get it there. You can offer general comments on the essay, just giving your final feedback about things you'd like to see as the reader moving forward. Okay? So that's what we're looking for in peer review. Good, solid, specific feedback, comments in the margins that are very easy to trace to exactly where you're talking about, as well as overview, general comments. So if you can do that for each peer review activity this semester, that'll offer really good help to everybody in the class, and hopefully we can write that much better essays because of the feedback.